The following is a presentation of the Healthcare Facilities Network. If we could pivot to the work-life balance issue,
Mhm.
when did work-life balance kind of start to appear as I don't want to say an issue, as an employee you want? And what have
Mhm.
you traditionally done in your past roles to provide work-life balance?
So it's funny, work-life balance has always been a question on our employee surveys, right? So employees have always been seeking work-life balance, but I will tell you that in every job I've ever been in, work-life balance or bad scores in work-life balance are rarely about work-life balance. um, there's typically an underlying situation in that. And then coming out of COVID, where people were allowed to work from home, we did see it get better in some cases, but I will say in some cases it got worse because people in COVID and even people working from home today will tell you, I work longer hours when I work from home because you're working where you live,
Yeah.
and you might get up and cook dinner, or you might go eat, and then you go and you're like, well, but I need to respond, it's 7 o'clock at night, but I need to respond to some emails, so I'm going to go back and wrap some things up. So you end up, your day is just extremely extended if you're not careful and not managing yourself. But work-life balance has always been, like I said, it's always been a question that we've gotten um, really challenging responses in the exempt world. Now, non-exempt people, not so much, because they clock in and out, right? They're
Mhm.
hourly, that when they clock out, their day is typically done, unless you're violating your FLSA laws. But that's, again, that could be a whole nother topic. But for exempt people, yeah, it's always, I would say I haven't worked anywhere that we've gotten great work-life balance comments. Now, some places have been better than others, but again, when you get those, and you start digging into them, it's not necessarily, um, they don't, there are symptoms of it, I guess I should say, or things that you can easily address. So the work-life balance, presents itself in the form of too many meetings where nobody gets anything done.
Hmm.
I'm expected to, I feel like I'm expected to respond to emails at all hours of the night because my boss sends me emails at all hours of the night. I'm expected to set unrealistic dates for projects. And then that carries over, I end up working on the weekends so that I can get these things done. Or you look at projects. This is my favorite one. Um, I look at projects and I look at the people who are on the projects, and I'll say, out of all these people, how many of these people are on multiple projects? And you'll get, oh, well, just about all of them are. Because companies get comfortable with certain people, they do a good job, so they become the default person. And they forget that person's got a full-time job, right? You've got them on 10 projects over here because they're really good performers.
This is Peter Martin. If you or your organization is interested in advertising or partnering with the Healthcare Facilities Network, including sponsoring content, then please email me using the barcode in the lower right of your screen. From the trades level to the vice president level, from planning, design, construction, project management, compliance, safety, and security, the Healthcare Facilities Network reaches FM people where FM
And
people
they
are.
don't complain. And in the meantime, you don't know this, but they're staying up all hours of the night, weekends, to manage their own work. So those are typically, things that I see when I hear work-life balance.
Interesting. And so what are some simple remedies? Well, let me ask first. You talked about how some of your poor work-life balance scores, sometimes there's something driving that behind that. Is that maybe happiness with manager, or is it other organizational issues where they're not feeling well, so it's kind of reflected on that work-life balance part of
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, you see that a lot, right? It could be anything from, I'm just, nobody ever says thank you to me.
Hmm.
When you start digging in, it's just a general, lack of appreciation. So they feel like, hey, I'm coming to work, I'm just working all day, I'm not getting good feedback. And then I go home at night and I'm frustrated and I can't let that go. Right. So you do see some of that. But I would say it's probably about, I don't know if I had to assign a number to it, 60-40 kind of thing, and the 60% is what I just mentioned, too many meetings, calling on the same people. It's usually a resource, what I call a resource,
Hmm.
or or an expectation problem related to work-life balance.
Just to the meeting thing for a second, only 'cause, so I've been consulting on our own with my partner for about 10 years now. And so I have meetings, but they're meetings kind of that they're beneficial to me in many ways. I felt that we had way too many meetings when I was working.
Mhm.
Do most organizations have far too many meetings? What do you think about the meeting part of it?
Yeah, I do think most if you're not walking out of every meeting with like just three things that you can knock out very quickly, you probably shouldn't be meeting, right? I've sat through meetings. I sat through a meeting not long ago where people just it went way over because people were processing things out loud.
Yeah.
And you want people to feel heard, but there becomes a point where it's like, okay, this meeting is no longer productive. We need to find another way to help you process. That just means your change management isn't going well, or something's broken in your communication, that people are bringing things that they should either already know about, be able to access easily, be able to get to, bringing that into a meeting. Or if you end up with 25 things coming out of a meeting, that's not productive either. You can't
Yeah.
get all the things done. You need to prioritize. So I think, uh, Gary Vee has a requirement that his meetings don't last more than 10 minutes. you know, I
Yeah.
think, who else? The coach, the former Alabama coach,
Nick
same
Saban?
thing. Yeah, Saban is like, if he would want like 15 minutes for every meeting, and if you couldn't get it done in 15 minutes, and at 15 minutes he was done, he would get up and leave.
Do you,
So,
do you think you could pull that off in the corporate world?
he. It depends. I've seen CEOs try to.
Yeah.
I,
I'd
yeah.
love I'd love to see, how did it end for them?
In a lot of cases, it was good for them.
Right.
um, and I would say that I would say what it does is it forces, as long as you're willing to live with it, it forces decision making. Because really, I think longer meetings just mean I'm looking for somebody else to make a decision. I mean, to me, what I've experienced, I'm looking for somebody else to make a decision, or I want to vent, or I see all these things broken and I want somebody to pay attention and help fix them. So, having more succinct meetings, I think, just forces people to deal with issues and make decisions.
Yeah.
So, one big company that I'm aware of, they had a policy that meetings couldn't be more than 30 minutes. When you got to 30 minutes, you were done. So either schedule another meeting
Yep.
or figure out how to get it done in 30 minutes.
That's a good one. That seems more realistic than a 10 or 15, a 30
Yeah,
minutes.
yeah. But where I am consulting currently, they have a new president. He cut a bunch of meetings out, and I've done some employee interviews, and they're already saying things are better. They
Yeah.
feel like they have more time back in their day because they don't have so many meetings.
Yeah, I mean, everybody you talk to thinks they have too many. I mean, I think that would be
Yeah,
one, like a universal thing for most organizations. You could come in and people would say, "Thank God."
yeah, yeah. But you have to have the systems and processes in place, and you have to be able. You really do have to foster a culture of decision making. I think a lot of meetings happen because people are either not allowed to make decisions, uncomfortable with decisions, um, you know, want approval for certain decisions, or feel like everybody has to agree.
Yeah,
And
right. Yeah.
you
Do,
got to decide which of those is right.
yeah. Is a that everybody agreeing, is that becoming more of a is that becoming more of a trend, or just in some companies relative to kind of that decision-making process? Is
I
that
think
increasing?
yeah, in bigger companies, I've noticed it's a trend, right? Smaller companies, more nimble companies, I haven't seen that. But I think it depends on who's at the top.
Yeah,
know,
that's
and
awfully difficult to achieve.
yeah, yeah. It's
Hmm.
and but it is all. I do also think it's a sign of a. I mean, this is Jen personal. This isn't Jen with the HR hat on. I think it's a sign of you're afraid to let people make mistakes.
Hmm.
Right? Everybody has to agree. That way, nobody complains. You don't like conflict.
Yeah.
You're hesitant to make mistakes, so everybody's got to agree.
So there's kind of like cover in that agreement of all the people moving forward.
Yeah, that way, if you're the leader, you're like, well, it didn't go well, but you all agreed to it. So,
Yeah,
you know,
very interesting. Um, so that's a good conversation. Going back to that the work-life balance, one of the here in the world of healthcare facilities management, it the comment is it can be difficult to achieve relative to you always have to be on site. I mean, you're taking care of a building, so there are opportunities in some areas where you may be able to work off site a little bit more, but um, as a rule, if you're a tradesperson, you got
mhm,
to be there. If
yeah.
you're a director, you got to be there most of the time because the building is yours. But a lot
Mhm.
of what you're talking about relative to work-life balance, it sounds like there's some fixes that don't necessarily say, let me work from home more.
Right.
Some of the fixes are right there within the facility.
Yes. Yeah, I would agree with that. We had a phrase at my last company, when we were bringing people back, or we were suggesting that they come back. We would say we have to earn their commute.
We have to earn their commute.
Right? So basically give them a reason to come back into work, right?
Mm.
Whether it is the camaraderie of being around people, whether it's the fun stuff, free food,
Yeah, always
um,
works.
or just a better work environment, right? What can you do to impact the work environment so that they enjoy coming back to work? What are some things, that was a lot of we had a lot of discussion around that. And there are things that you can do. You can make it easier for them to come into work if they haven't, if they don't have an office and have touchdown spaces, or you can say, like, hey, this many days out of the month we're going to provide pizza at lunch if you want to come in and grab a piece of pizza and do a little socializing. Employees really do miss, I will tell you, in every company I've ever talked to, employees miss the old time Christmas parties and the gathering of people.
Hmm.
So, what can you do to, it doesn't always have to be food or a party, but what can you do to facilitate that, where they want to come in to see people, they enjoy coming into work. So those, that's what we focused on. And obviously we asked our employees, what would it take you, what would drive you to come back into work? And unbelievably, some of them just said, nothing, I'll come back in, I'm just tired of being at home.
Yeah.
But other people were like, well, this is what I would like, right? I miss associating with people, but I'm not going to come back and sit in an office by myself and not talk to anybody. That's just not, doesn't seem to be worth my time, right? So it's, what can you do to kind of draw them into your environment?
You've given a number of different examples you can do. Are there things that you've done to foster that?
you know um I would say we've looked at things like commuting pay,
Huh.
for people that were outside, really had moved. We had a lot of people move during COVID, so it's like, well, now what, right? They moved further outside of a city, and now you're asking me to come back and it's going to take me an hour where it took me 20 minutes before. I would say a lot of things that we looked at like that did cost some money, whether they were, gas card raffles or anything like that. But what we found was just trying to improve the overall environment. In facilities management, I'm sure you get people who skip over the process, so to speak, of maybe putting in a request and go right to that person because they know that person. And so it's if you can somehow fix that, because that also eats into work-life balance. You
Yeah.
know, you gotta
Yeah.
try, because I only think about that because on my we outsourced at one job, we outsourced our call center. So the center that employees use to call to resolve problems.
Hmm.
And the business partners were, business partners are typically people pleasers in HR, right? They want everybody to be happy. And so they started answering all the questions, and I looked and my call volume had gone way down. Nobody was calling the call center. And when I surveyed people, it was because they're going to the business partners.
Yeah.
The business partners were really unhappy and felt like they were just so overburdened and they had so much work on their plates. And I said, well, if you would redirect these calls to the call
Yep.
center. And they're like, well, but it'll take me just 20 minutes to help them. And I'm like, but that's 20 minutes out of your day.
Yeah.
And it's a hard thing for people to do, to redirect people. But when they started doing it, it made such a difference in their work-life balance. And I was optimizing the people I was actually paying to do that work.
That's actually, I mean, that is a perfect, that's a perfect summation of what happens. I mean, what happens, right? It
Yeah.
just, the same thing occurs. And I think sometimes the most difficult thing, like you said, is because there are maintenance folks who are facility pleasers. I mean, who are people pleasers. They're asked a question, they can fix it, they want to do it, and it's in
Right.
their nature to do it, but it bites them.
Yes. Yes. It's hard to say. It's hard to redirect people. You almost have to teach them how to redirect people in a kind manner, right? So and you have to understand and give them grace if people complain, well, this guy didn't help me out. I asked him to help me out. And you have to support them and say, well, I know he wanted to help you out, but if you understand, if everybody did what you did,
Right.
that's all he's doing all day. So he did the right thing.
Do you find that those commuter
For sure.
cards, are they a thing of the future? Are you seeing that more? Cards for folks who are commuting?
I think it depends on the company. I think if you do want, if the market is tight and you are having to cast a very wide net to get people into the role, I think you have to think outside the box at what other reward systems you can put in place, right? So whether it's a bonus plan, whether it's a commuter program, there's a lot of companies that offer commuter passes as part of their benefits program.
Yeah.
And so you have to do that if in a tight labor market. You got to think outside the box.
So my last question for Jennifer Bender, who's been kind enough to join us. I could talk to you again because there's everything you bring up. There's like some there's spinoffs from it. But if we could just close talking about the remote workforce. We talked about the work-life balance. I was talking to somebody last week. She was let go from a job, had a new manager. New manager came in. They've been working remote, didn't have the face-to-face or the human interaction. They were interacting via Zoom. And as she reflects back on it or thinks back on it, in her mind, she's like, you know what? Had we either had an established relationship and or been able to see each other, been able to connect. You were talking about this before, the ability to connect. She
Right.
feels things could have been different. They would have ended differently. Are you
Mhm.
seeing any of that? And is that, as an HR professional, is any of that remote hybrid work a concern for you with those manager-employee relationships?
Yeah, I think it is a little bit. I think it can be remote work can be challenging for managers, especially kind of managers who believe that who are less trusting, right?
Hmm.
Or if you don't already have a very trusting relationship for your employee, you're kind of always like, well, are they really working? Are they, and the sadness of that is, I think, to my earlier comment, I think people are actually working more from
Yeah.
home, but I do know a lot of managers get uncomfortable with having a remote workforce or dealing with certain people that are remote. But it's a two-way street, right? So if I knew I was getting a manager who was brand new and I'd had no relationship with that person, the first thing I would be doing if I were working remote would be acting like every interaction was a job interview.
Huh.
Here's what I'm doing. These are my deadlines. Let me send you my plans for the week. Let me send you my timelines. This is what I've accomplished. And
Mm.
and then there's obviously the social things that you can do on Zoom. Like I read something a while back that said, the first thing you should do when you get on any kind of a call is show your hands. It's a psychological ploy, because I guess supposedly years and years ago, when people weren't showing their hands, it's usually because they had a weapon.
That's really interesting.
So, when I got on Zoom calls with all my team, the first thing I would do is be like, hey guys, and some people might have thought it was corny, but it really did kind of set the tone.
Yeah.
So, so I did start trying to read up on and see what other things you can do. And honestly, I did have a few scenarios where I said, hey, we're going to be on calls, Team, Zoom, whatever. I said, you have to have your camera turned on, because I had people who didn't turn their camera on. And I was like, I don't care what you look like. I don't care if you're sitting there in your pajamas, but please, I feel like we're interacting better if you have your camera.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it's you do have to understand what the drivers are of the person that you're from an employee perspective, and also from a leader perspective.
That's a great answer. I'm glad. Can I ask you a yes, no question? It's a closed-ended question, not open-ended. Are we ever going back to the way it was before COVID relative to full workplaces with people? Like it was. Will we go back to that ever? Yes or no? Because I know you got to go.
uh, I wish it were yes or no. I don't know. I think it's really going to be driven by, again, the market,
Okay.
right? Where the talent is, how you can get the talent. If you've got incredibly talented people that you need because they have a particular skill set and they say, I want to work from home, you'd be crazy as an employer to say, well, I'm sorry, we're going to pass on you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Good answer. Nothing's black or white, right? There's always gray. You got to be comfortable with the gray.
Yep.
Jennifer Bender, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you. It was fun. I enjoyed it.
It was. Have a great day.
You too.
Take care.
Bye.
This is Peter Martin from the Healthcare Facilities Network. As always, thank you for watching.